Good evening, denizens of the night. Welcome to Fangs After Dark. Tonight we will touch on the blood, Vitae, going into a little more depth as to what this is. We had previously touched on Vitae being one of the two main characteristics that define what a kindred is, from my perspective. So tonight we will go a little bit further and talk about the crimson red that every kindred loves so much. Enjoy, and remember, nothing good ever happens after dark. What is there to say about Vitae, the blood? Well, obviously, we all know that Vitae is the primary life essence, the energy source for all kindred kind. We need this source to animate ourselves, to exist, and we also need to keep fed, to keep the beast at bay. But the blood is multifaceted. There are a great many uses for the blood, not just as fuel for kindred existence, but it powers a great many abilities. It has a great many effects on kindred and mortal alike. It can be used in all sorts of occult rituals and things of that nature. The blood is quite a powerful piece to kindred kind. So let us start with more basic uses of Vitae. When a vampire awakens every night, they must rouse some of the blood within them, the Vitae, to be able to awaken from the cold, dead sleep that all kindred engage in at dawn. If they should not have enough blood in their system when they do this, they remain in this cold, dead sleep known as torpor for an indeterminate amount of time. But, as I've stated in other entries, letting yourself become so starved of blood can lead to disaster. So avoid that as best as you can. Other aspects of Vitae is that kindred can gain sustenance from them in animals, though despite the amount of Vitae or blood that might be within any given animal, they will only ever gain a pittance of sustenance from them. Because Vitae itself, the way that the vampiric body transubstantiates blood from mortal beings and or animals, turns it into Vitae, and mortal blood from humans or other blood from supernatural creatures has a higher quantity of life essence within it that vampires can make use of. So blood from animals is just a little bit less nutritious for kindred, though they can gain sustenance, and the taste is rather bland. Vitae has further uses still. One of the main uses for Vitae is in powering vampiric special abilities known as disciplines. These disciplines are varied between all the different clans that exist of vampires. They cover powers anywhere from super speed to super strength to blood sorcery and abilities that some would consider fantastical or horrific. But each discipline takes Vitae to use, and to learn new disciplines, depending on which clan you hail from, can also require a more intimate taste of Vitae. Another use of Vitae is to strengthen your own raw physical capabilities. This particular ability is a little bit more common use, as every kindred can perform this. You rouse your blood, and your strength gets beefed up just a little bit. You become a little bit faster, a little bit more sturdy. The limits to this, however, is inherent within the generation of a vampire. The older they are, the more they are able to rouse their blood to boost their abilities. The younger they are, the less they're capable of doing so. But every kindred has this advantage over every mortal. Remember, the lives of mortals are fragile in the hands of the undead. But should you wish to mingle amongst mortal kind, another great tool that Vitae provides for Kindred is the use of Vitae in giving ourselves a more healthy appearance to other humans, a blush of life. The normal vampiric appearance in our natural state is of undeath. We are pale, we look dead. Not decrepit or corpse-like, but we do not look natural. This use of blood, when you rouse this blood to give you a blush of life, you give yourself a little bit more color in your skin. Your heart beats ever so slowly. You have a warm touch to your skin. You look and feel alive. You might seem sickly, but you look alive. And this is an invaluable tool in the use of masquerading amongst the kind. Clans such as the Toreador, the Ventrue, and even the Bruja use this ability quite readily, as they tend to ingratiate themselves within mortal society more than others. But it is a valuable tool nonetheless. The Blood Bond. This is a powerful tool in the Kindred's arsenal of control and manipulation, and yet it is also some of the more sinister aspects of the Vitae that exist within our veins. When a mortal or a kindred, or even an animal, imbibe on the blood of a kindred, if they do it enough, they will develop what is known as a blood bond, a sort of attachment, a link to the person whose blood they are drinking from that causes them to be supernaturally attracted to them, to become a subservient blood slave to that person. The severity of this is dependent on the frequency on which they drink from the blood, but nonetheless, it is something to be careful of. The more severe the blood bond, the more likely the enthralled individual will act erratically and illogically to do things to please their master. They will take your words, twist them, they will take your expectations and turn them, because they think that if they do it their way, that you'll approve of it. That you'll have to see it their way, because you love them so much. And they love you. This can expound even further and become even more twisted if the enthralled individual in question is also kindred. Kindred are always a wild card. I've heard tales of kindred engaging in something called a blood marriage, where they both imbibe on each other's blood, creating a mutual blood bond. Though I hear this always spirals out of control into a toxic, destructive relationship that eventually ends in both of them either degrading even further into their monstrous beasts or outright just final death. It's something that you should always be aware of if you intend to use the blood bond as a tool. Going even further for the blood bond, if you imbibe on the blood of a kindred as a mortal, and you do so regularly for an extended period of time, not only will you develop a blood bond to that person, but you will also become a ghoul. What is a ghoul? A ghoul is a mortal or an animal that exists between kindred and mortal. You now have Vitae within your veins as a normal human, and this gives you power, because as I've stated, Vitae is power. It is life essence. When a mortal becomes a ghoul, they now have some aspects of kindred life that they otherwise would not have. One of the biggest ones is that they are now immortal. They are ageless as long as they imbibe on this blood. They will never age, but they are still mortal. They still need to eat. They still need to sleep, rest. They still need to engage in other mortal activities to preserve their mentalities if they are to be useful to you as a ghoul. But they also gain a little bit of sturdiness, a little bit more strength and speed, and in some cases, they can even utilize the Vitae that is in their veins to power a lesser version of the disciplines that their master may possess. These ghouls are not a force to be reckoned with. They are good tools that Kindred use to protect themselves, because they can also still go out into the day. They can act during the hours in which Kindred are asleep and most vulnerable. Ghouls are important to every Kindred if they are to survive. Not every Kindred engages in this activity, however. It is a way of subservience and forced servitude. It is a blood slave technique, just to a greater extent. So you should always take care to make sure that the ghouls you have, you will make good use of. I am of the personal opinion that if you bring a ghoul into your world, you are responsible for them and you should treat them accordingly. Because now they are pseudo your children. And in some cases, ghouls end up becoming embraced if they prove themselves useful enough and impressive. But as for the rest of uses of Vitae, there are a great many other things that it can be utilized on, as I've stated before, occult rituals and the like, but those are so varied and so niche that it would not do them justice for me to mention them here. Perhaps I will go into them in further detail in more occult-oriented videos, and I will present those to you at some point. But for now, take what I have said and learn that the blood within our veins, the Vitae that exists in us, is our most powerful tool. Treat it with respect. Keep yourself fed. And go into the night with a belly full and the beast sated.